Now we turn to one of the most prominent legal voices in America, Jeffrey Toobin, who served as a federal prosecutor, a lawyer for the Iran-Contra Independent Counsel. He's a New Yorker writer, CNN's chief legal analyst, the author of several best-selling legal books, including a new one on the Mueller probe, True Crimes and Misdemeanors, the investigation of Donald Trump. Jeffrey Toobin, as an admirer of your work and a colleague, thanks for making your debut on The Beat, sir.
Thanks, buddy. It's great to be here.
I'm thrilled. We've got you over here instead of the usual place you are. And we're going to get to this book.
I'm breaking out in hives. It's all good.
We'll get to your book, but I want to start with some of the news. Attorney General Barr finally faced Congress, continues to be out on a warpath, told the members of Congress, hey, are you surprised I'm a Republican? Minimized the documented police killings of Black Americans, and continues to do favors for Donald Trump. What do you think of Bill Barr's role right now heading into this pivotal election?
Well, you know, we've had politically motivated attorneys general throughout our history, but I don't think we've seen anything like this in certainly in the modern era. And I think it's important for people to realize that, you know, there is a fundamental disbelief on the part of Barr and many people around him that there is any problem with policing in this country. That they don't believe that there is systemic racism, and they don't believe that there's racism. I mean, it is really it's not like he's positioning himself. It's true. That's what he really believes. And when you look at what he's done in the Flynn case, what he's done in the Roger Stone case, and this fishing expedition to trash the old guard at the FBI in the Connecticut U.S. Attorney's investigation. I mean, it hasn't happened before. Who is this transparent in doing the president's bidding?
And as we look towards this election night, do you expect that it could be a long one, an election week or more, like 2000, which you covered? And what do Americans take from it if there are legal battles?
Well, I think just as a practical matter, the counting of votes cannot possibly all be done on election night as it has customarily been done because of all the mail-in voting. I mean, you just can't count all those votes on election night in the way that you could count the machines. So that's certainly going to be longer, even if there are no legal battles, and I expect there will be some. So, I mean, I think this is a very chilling and sober thing to consider, is that how difficult this election is going to be, both as a practical matter to get done and to get accepted by the American people.
Very interesting, and you've been there, and you'll be busy if it turns that way. I want to now look at the book. We've put together just very brief highlights of your grades of the Mueller probe. So we'll put these up, drawn from your book. You say basically he ran a fair investigation, but he avoided Trump's finances. He didn't demand Trump sit for an interview, and he found major evidence of criminal obstruction, but then didn't issue a clear conclusion. What is important about what you found in your reporting here about a probe that we all lived through?
Well, I think, you know, points 1, 3, and 4 are really the most important there. I give Mueller and his team tremendous credit for their thoroughness, for their ethics, for their integrity. But I think Mueller really failed when he did not seek a real interview with the president. And, you know, in my book, it's a long saga. I mean, one of the great pleasures, as you covered this story, I covered this story, we had no inside access to the workings of the office as it was happening. But in my book, looking back, I really I was able to talk to the Mueller people as well as the Trump people. And I think that, you know, what we have to acknowledge is that the Trump lawyers really outmaneuvered the Mueller lawyers by extending the debate over the subpoena so long that Mueller felt a legal fight would have just dragged this thing on too long. And that was a conscious strategy. And Rudy Giuliani, for all his nuttiness on television, recognized that and did an effective job, both politicizing Mueller as an enemy of the president and by dragging out the subpoena fight to the point where Mueller had to settle for these really ridiculous written questions and answers that were of virtually no value.
Yeah, and you lay that out, which is super interesting, even for people who understandably give Mueller a lot of respect or benefit of the doubt. You also look at this strange cast of characters of witnesses. I'm reading here from your discussion of Jerome Corsi, who's the only person that was actually threatened with a written draft indictment and wasn't indicted. You write, Corsi stared them down. They filed no charges against him. The surrender on Corsi made Mueller's plans clearer than any announcement he was finished. And unlike some other probes that I mentioned for viewers way back in the day, you were a part of an independent counsel probe. We were hearing from some of these witnesses in real time. I want to play a little bit of our interviews with several of them for your analysis now that we have your book and your 2020 hindsight. Take a look. Did you speak to the FBI or Mueller's prosecutors?
Yes.
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 The reason us three are essentially in there is because of Stone.
I get that. I get that.
When he goes around and lies and says that I was the only person he told as a joke that he met with Julian Assange, give me a break.
And I think you're putting your old friend in danger.
Well, he put us all in danger, by the way, Mike.
I don't believe that at the time they believed that Donald Trump was involved. I believe right now they still think there was some kind of coordination.
There were multiple witnesses.
How great it was to have the four of them together. It was, as far as I'm concerned, the bar scene in Star Wars. The four of them all together. Corsi and company. Corsi, he stared him down. I mean, I was a federal prosecutor. When you send someone a draft indictment or a draft plea agreement, that means you're getting indicted. And they sent Corsi one, and Corsi not only didn't sign it, but he just distributed it publicly. And he said, I'm not signing, I'm not doing it. And you know what? I mean, look, he was a fringe figure in all of this, but I think it was indicative of the fact that, Mueller did not push every button he could have. And the irony is that, Trump and his supporters have said, they were so aggressive, they were so outrageous. The things that Mueller didn't do were from the absence of zeal, not an excess of zeal.
Absence of zeal, and you take a look at those witnesses. I heard from one person who was in those rooms. They said, look, you knew the investigation wasn't going to the top when it ends with Corsi and Stone and these sort of, as you put it, fringe figures. Did you find that, or do you think at the end of the day, although it may not be provable, there was more of a there potentially when it came to outreach to a foreign power?
That is the great unanswered question, and I wish I could give you a solid answer. Mueller did not go beyond 2015. He did not look at Trump's tax returns. He did not look at Trump's Deutsche Bank records. He did not try to unravel the question that so many of us have struggled with is, what is it about Vladimir Putin and Russia that Trump continues to defer to? Why does he never criticize Putin? And that question remains unanswered, and Mueller didn't seek it out. I'm a little more sympathetic to him in that area because it was outside his original jurisdiction. It's not like his failure on the subpoena. It's not like his failure to spell out in plain English that Trump obstructed justice in a way that was far worse than either Bill Clinton or Richard Nixon, as far as I'm concerned.
And Jeffrey, you make a crucial distinction there between the jurisdiction, which is the rules, and then the actual attitude, which was, yes, Mueller was no star when it came to pushing the boundaries. I'm running out of time. My last question for you is just a trick question. As your readers and fans will debate, do you think this book is better than your classic O.J. book, The Run of His Life?
It was harder to write, I'll tell you that, because, it was a moving target throughout, and to say nothing of finishing it during COVID. This story, what I loved about this story was that so much of it had not been told before. Is that, the OJ case unfolded, it was pretty much what you see is what you get, but all of us suffered in ignorance, during the Mueller investigation.
Right.
And I like to think that I I'm telling people a lot of stuff they didn't know.
Well, it's fascinating, which is why I wanted to have you on. It's a good one. I will say, as a reader, The Run of His Life is one of the best books about a court case ever. So you have a high bar to meet when you're writing your own books.
You're the man. You're the man, counselor.
Jeffrey Toobin, counselor. The book, again, is True Crimes and Misdemeanors, the Investigation of Donald Trump. We recommend it. Thank you, Jeffrey. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.